What if a skyline wasn't just a bunch of buildings, but was actually a nation's autobiography, written in concrete and steel? Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Malaysia's skyscraper boom. It's a tale of massive ambition, national pride, and, well, the pretty complicated consequences of building a dream that might just be a little too big.
Okay, so let's get right to the central mystery here. How on earth did Malaysia, a country with only about 34 million people, manage to build a skyline that puts much bigger and wealthier countries in its shadow?
And when you look at the numbers, it's just wild. Malaysia is ranked 4th globally for skyscrapers over 150 meters tall. Think about that. That means it has more of these mega towers than economic giants like Japan and Canada. It's an architectural achievement that, frankly, seems completely out of proportion.
And it gets even more puzzling when you start looking at the money. Malaysia's income per person is just a fraction of what its neighbor Singapore has. And yet, its capital, Kuala Lumpur, has way more skyscrapers. So right away, you know this isn't just a story about money. There's something much deeper, a powerful national story going on here.
To really get it, we need to rewind and look at the actual blueprint for modern Malaysia. See, this skyline wasn't some kind of happy accident. Nope, it was a deliberate, incredibly ambitious act of nation-building right from the very start.
After getting independence back in 1957, Malaysia's leaders had this huge vision. They were like, no way are we just going to be a source of raw materials for the rest of the world. So through all these big state-led policies, they set out to transform the country into a real industrial powerhouse, trying to copy the success of the Asian tigers.
This whole strategy is what experts call a developmental state. And for decades, the man driving this was the Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. His government used these really powerful state-owned companies to create a whole new class of entrepreneurs, and he pushed his Look East policy hard, basically saying, hey, let's do what Japan and South Korea did.
And this is the absolute key. For leaders like Dr. Mahathir, these skyscrapers were never just buildings. They were these powerful, physical symbols of progress. They were tangible proof that his grand plan for the country, Vision 2020, was actually working.
And you can see this national ambition perfectly captured in the story of two absolutely iconic towers. They were built about a quarter century apart, and together they tell the story of Malaysia's own evolving identity. So the first one is, of course, the Petronas Towers, finished in 1998, paid for with the state's oil profits. This was a statement to the entire world. It was Malaysia announcing its arrival, basically shouting, hey everyone, we are here.
The design by Cesar Pelli was just a masterpiece, taking a super modern form but grounding it in Islamic heritage. Even the construction was a whole drama. They literally made it a race between Japanese and South Korean builders. But really, at the end of the day, the towers were a multi-billion-dollar advertisement for Malaysia Incorporated, designed to pull in global investment. And if you want to understand just how much sheer will was involved here, just look at this number. The ground was so unstable that engineers had to drill down a record-breaking 114 meters just to find solid rock to build on. This was way more than just construction. It was a statement of intent. Okay, now let's fast forward 25 years to the second tower, Merdeka 118. This one was funded in a totally different way, through this unique financial engine they have called Government-Linked Investment Companies, or GLICs. These are basically massive state funds that manage the retirement savings of millions of ordinary Malaysians.
So get this, Merdeka 118, the second tallest building in the world, was funded directly by the people's savings. It's a much more personal, inward-looking monument. Its silhouette is literally a tribute to the moment Malaysia's first prime minister raised his hand and chanted Merdeka, or independence, back in '57. So if Petronas said, we are here, this tower says, this is who we are.
But, and there's always a but, right? This relentless push to build higher and higher started to cast some pretty long shadows. As the skyline got bigger, it started to reveal some really deep-seated problems that challenged that whole narrative of progress.
The most obvious issue? A massive property glut. For all these stunning towers, there just aren't enough businesses to fill them. The prime office vacancy rate is nearly 25%. That's one of the highest in all of Asia. The market is just completely flooded.
And this boom has also come at a huge human cost. You have historic communities like Kampung Baru, which is a century-old Malay village right in the heart of the city, and now it's just being completely swallowed up by skyscrapers. It's a classic story of gentrification where communities that have been there forever face getting pushed out and their culture starts to fade away.
The boom also fueled a massive cost of living crisis. Between 1990 and 2019, average home prices just skyrocketed, going up by almost 6 times. But people's incomes, they grew way slower. And that's made owning a home pretty much an impossible dream for a lot of Malaysians, creating this really deep divide in the city.
So all these growing problems, the empty buildings, the displacement, the affordability crisis, they haven't gone unnoticed. It's actually led to a pretty serious reassessment at the highest levels of government about, what kind of development actually helps the nation.
And then, in 2024, we saw a huge policy shift. The Prime Minister, Anwar Ibrahim, came out and said that these kinds of mega projects would no longer be a priority. He said instead his government would focus on things that directly serve the people, like improving public housing. It really feels like it could be the end of the era of the vanity project. This really signals a major turning point for Malaysia, and it kind of leaves us with one last big thought. What should a skyline truly represent? Is it about a nation's ambition and its success? Or is it about the well-being of its people? And maybe the real question is it even possible to have both?